It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. LSU hitting the road. Going up to Fayetteville, Arkansas, face the number one ranked team in the country, the Arkansas Razorbacks, for 3 games, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We have a ton to get to in order to preview this matchup. You have changes in LSU's rotation. You have changes in Arkansas's rotation. You have an Arkansas team on paper offensively that doesn't look like too much of a threat, but, you know, we always dig a little deeper here, and we'll show you that that's not totally the case. You have an Arkansas pitching staff on paper that looks pretty darn invincible, but given some recent trends, you can look at it and say, okay, there's potentially a spot that LSU could have success. So we'll go through all of that. Look, this is my favorite week of the year. There's always an immense amount of talent on the field. It's 2 passionate fan bases. You've had upsets, walk-off homers, possums on the field. It's just been an insane series throughout its history, and it's normally always very, very entertaining when the Hogs and the Tigers get together, and I don't expect this year to be any different. So let's jump right in it, y'all. Y'all smash the like button if you haven't already. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app if you haven't already. And let's dive right into it here with our series overview. LSU comes in ranked as high as number 7 in the country, 20-6 overall, 2-4 in the SEC. Arkansas comes in as the consensus number 1 team in the country, 20-3 overall, 5-1 in the SEC, tied atop the league with the Kentucky Wildcats. LSU leads the all-time series with Arkansas 77-41. Arkansas just had a string of 3 straight series victories broken last season in Baton Rouge as LSU finally got back on to the winning side of things, dropping game 1 in 10 innings and then sweeping a doubleheader to take the series. Arkansas overall batting .279 average, 7 runs per game. On the mound, a 2.50 ERA. That is first nationally in the country, and also a top 2 K per 9 inning ratio as well for this staff. That completes your overview of the series. Let's dive in to pitching matchups. For Arkansas, it will be junior lefty Hagen Smith, start 7, appearance 7. Smith 4-0 on the year with a 1.24 ERA, 29 innings pitched. He has walked 10, struck out 62, and the opponent hits just 116 off of Hagen Smith. For LSU, to be announced, and that's where we really dive in. LSU is pitching off this weekend versus Arkansas. Luke Holman will go game 2. Gage Jump will go game 3, and you have the TBA. We'll get into who that could be, but let's talk about why you are doing that, because I think many people can look at that and go, why is LSU conceding a game? And look, Jay Johnson is not going to tell you they're doing that. And LSU isn't, and I hate that term, conceding a game. I hate it, because didn't we all think LSU had won a heck of advantage against Mississippi State in game number 1 when they had to scratch Nate Dome and pitch Evan Sierra? Yeah, Mississippi State won that game 10-4. So they're going to go out there, they're going to compete their ass off, and they're going to try their hardest to win the ball game. So I hate the term conceding a game. What this is strategy. You're looking at how you go about giving yourself the best chance to win. That's what this is. They'll tell you they're keeping their guys on normal rest. That's what they're going to tell you. But there is absolutely an ulterior motive here. LSU is off to a slow start in conference play. Your team has shown inconsistencies at the plate and a little bit on the mound, although you bounced back pretty well, minus the run rule game on Sunday against Florida. We talked about the first 17 innings of that series, you were awesome on the mound. Really, the first 2/3 of that series, you were awesome on the mound. But Hagen Smith is just a special, unreal talent, much like a guy like Paul Skeens was last year. And you saw teams start to do this against LSU last year. You saw them do this against LSU when they had Aaron Nola. Every now and then you run into these guys who are just special talents. Hagen Smith's going to be a top 10 pick, guaranteed, provided he continues to stay healthy in this summer's draft. This is a guy that saw his velocity jump from 93 to 94 to 97, 99 this season. And oh, by the way, he still has that absolutely filthy slider. He struck out 17 of 18 outs he recorded in a game against the number 3, maybe even number 2 team in the country in Oregon State. Struck out the first 15 batters of that ball game. He's just been on an otherworldly tear. 22 straight scoreless innings for Hagen Smith coming into this game. The last earned run he gave up was March 1st against Murray State, and that was a leadoff solo homer for the Racers. He's really good. He was already really good. He didn't need to start throwing 100. That's just something that he's done that's made him even better. Now, when you look at him specifically against LSU, it's been really rough for the Tigers. In 3 games over 2 years, Hagen Smith has thrown 15 1/3 innings, given up only 5 earned runs, walked only 5, and struck out 24 against LSU. He has a 2.98 career ERA against the Tigers. And most of the damage that he's done, all of the damage that he's done, has been against lineups with the likes of Dylan Cruz, Jacob Berry, Tommy White, Trey Morgan, Braden Jobert. Go down the list. Guys like that. You don't have that lineup right now. And you could look at that and say, a 2.98 ERA. That's, they've at least gotten something off of him. It's a 3 ERA, basically. True. 2 of those earned runs were in garbage time in the 10th inning last year when you were down 9-1 and the game was decided. The other 2 I'll give LSU a lot of credit for in the SEC tournament. They battled him hard. He didn't have his best stuff. They really made him work. They scratched across 2 earned runs against him in that performance. But before the bottom of the 10th inning last year in Baton Rouge, Hagen Smith had thrown 9 2/3 innings against you and given up 1 earned run. Again, against those lineups. Sometimes you tip your hat and say, it's going to be really hard for us to win. Would we rather throw our ace in a game that we feel like we have an advantage in at that point, or burn Luke Holman and possibly lose the game 2-0 or 2-1? And then not necessarily have potentially an advantage in the next 2 games. It makes sense. It's an extreme compliment to a guy like Hagen Smith, who has just been incredibly hard for LSU to crack and everybody. The only other pitcher I would even conceivably think about putting above Hagen Smith in the nation is Chase Burns, and I actually don't know if I'm willing to go that far. I'm a big fan of Hagen Smith. Won't be on Thursday night. We'll be hoping he has his worst outing of his life, but any other time, kid's incredible. Wish him all the luck. So that's why they're doing it, and I think it makes sense. So who does LSU start opposite of him? And you have a couple options, right? You could run down the list and go, Nate Ackenhausen spot start in Omaha. He was great there, right? You've seen him extend 3 2/3 multiple times this year. Got up to 71 pitches against Florida. Makes sense. That was on Saturday, though. And he's been one of your most trusted and reliable arms out of the bullpen. I'm gonna scratch him off the list. I don't think you go Nate Ackenhausen here. You want the value of him pitching out of the bullpen later in this weekend, I should say. Javen Coleman started the season in the rotation. He's had plenty of starts and extended plenty throughout his LSU career. Problem there is he pitched last on Sunday through 30 pitches. That'd be a pretty quick turnaround. I don't think it's going to be Thatcher Hurd for the same reason. Last pitched on Sunday and threw 90 pitches. Not going to be Thatcher Hurd. Cade Anderson through Tuesday night. That's a tough ask. The more you look at it, the more one name stands out, and that's Griffin Herring. And I would be largely in favor of this choice for a couple of reasons. Number one, Griffin Herring last pitched on Friday, extended through 3 innings, got up to 54 pitches. He extended in the past in that elimination game against Wake Forest, where he came out of the bullpen and was nails for you there in College World Series last year. This is a guy who pitched often behind Paul Skeens on Friday nights in the SEC last year as a true freshman. He's also been pretty good this year. And he's the closest of all those guys that we mentioned to the normal rest. The other thing ties into what we kind of just mentioned. The stage isn't going to be too big for him. He pitched behind Paul Skeens regularly on Friday nights as a freshman. Pitched in Omaha in an elimination game as a freshman. He can handle 12,000 plus in Baum Walker facing a first-round draft pick in Hagen Smith. That is not going to be too big for him. Give the ball to Griffin Herring. That's my choice. That's my prediction. And see what he can do. How deep can you get us, Griff? 3, 4 innings? Okay? And you go from there. I think that's the way they go, and I'm in favor of it. So you move to game 2 and game number 3. Obviously, in game number 2, it will be junior righty Luke Holman. Start 7, appearance 7, 5-1, a 0.78 ERA, 34 2/3 innings pitched. Holman has walked 8 and struck out 56. The opponent hits just 157 off the Tiger righty. It was an awesome bounce back from him last week against Florida. 13 strikeouts, tying a career high, 6 innings. I mean, he was nails in that ball game. Keep the train rolling down the tracks now. He's going to be back on the road, tough road environment. It did not go well in Starkville. I want to see another bounce back. Him bouncing back in general last week was great. Now do it on the road. That's what you want to see. If he's got his stuff, I think Luke Holman will do just fine in this ball game. For Arkansas, here's where the change comes in their rotation. They're going to move up in the rotation. Junior lefty transfer from Texas Tech, Mason Molina. And keep in mind, it's only one day that they're moving him up, because they played Thursday, Friday, Saturday last week against against Auburn. So it'd be different if they were moving him up 2 days from like a Sunday start. It's only one day. So it's not that drastic of a change. For Molina, this will be appearance 7, start 7. He is 3-0 with a 2.57 ERA. You're looking at 28 innings pitched, 15 walks, 47 strikeouts, and the opponent hits 133 off Molina. Again, like I said, transfer from Texas Tech, really good program. Throws from the left side. He's not going to overpower you, but he's got great pitchability. He relies a lot on location, command. Fastball is going to top out at 90. Might bump a 91, but other than that, 88 to 90. Got a pretty good slider. The thing to watch with him is if he has his command. 15 walks in 28 innings, that's a good bit. I mean, he's got multiple outings this year with 3 or more walks. Last week against Auburn, walked 4, but to his credit, only gave up the 1 earned run. Pitchability, has the knack for making a big pitch when he needs to. If you're LSU, you look at this and say you have Luke Holman going against Mason Molina, who's a very good pitcher, but the advantage there should lie with Luke Holman. This should be one of LSU's best chances this weekend to steal a game. It should be LSU's best chance this weekend to get on the board and win a ball game. But they're going to have to take advantage of any little mistake that Mason Molina might give them. If he doesn't have command, isn't locating, and he's walking guys, you have to make that hurt. But he also can get into a groove on you. Over 200 strikeouts in his career. Really nice arm, Mason Molina. Game number 3, Gage Jump for LSU. That will be appearance number 7, start number 6 for Jump. He is 2-0 with a 2.38 ERA. 22 2/3 innings for Jump. 9 walks, 32 punch-outs. Opponent hits 154 off the Tiger lefty. Great bounce back for Gage Jump as well against Florida. Got you into the 6th inning. He was fantastic. The one thing I want to see from him, can he start to finally get the walk number down a little bit? Last 2 starts in conference play, 4 walks in each of them. We talked about it plenty with him not pitching last year at UCLA, having a whole year off. Command might come and go a little bit as he gains consistency back with that. The further into the season he goes, the better I think it will be. I just look at this Arkansas lineup. I see, okay, there are some struggles throughout. Can you limit free passes there? That's going to be key in this series in general. When you have two lineups, like we said, Arkansas's in 279. That's 13th in the Southeastern Conference. LSU's at 291. Whichever team can take advantage of free passes or any type of mistake, any gift the other side gives them is going to ultimately come out on top in these ball games. For Arkansas, Brady Tigert, junior righty, likewise suffered through plenty of injuries last year, back and in the rotation this year. This will be start 7, appearance 7 for Tigert, 3-0, a 1.59 ERA, 28 in the third innings, 16 walks, 39 punch-outs. The opponent hits 163 off of Tigert. For Tigert, it's a absolutely wipe-out slider. Disgusting. The best slider in the Southeastern Conference and arguably the best slider in the entire country. It is a devastating pitch. The fastball will be low 90s, maybe bump a mid-90s. They're keeping him on his regular rest, hoping it will snap him out of a little bit of a funk that he's in. The last 3 starts, he has failed to get to the 5th inning, and he just walked a career-high 5 against Auburn. So that goes back into what we're saying, right? Can you take advantage of any little struggle, any gift, any free anything that you're given? Can you? Because when you look at overall numbers, Arkansas probably advantage on the mound. When you look at where they've kind of been the last few weeks, you can make a case that LSU has an advantage in Game 2 and Game 3. You can make a case. And again, that's why I'm A-okay with this decision to pitch off in this series. Those are your starting pitching matchups right there. Let's dive a little bit deeper into Arkansas. We'll stick with the pitching staff since that's where we left off. Told you, a 2.5 team ERA, number 1 in college baseball in the entire country. Also a top 2 strikeout per 9 inning ratio. That leads me to another big key in this ball game. LSU has got to stick to their plan at the plate. They have to put together mature at-bats. When you have a runner at third base in less than 2 outs, you have to move the ball. You have to move the offense and get that run in. Runners in scoring position, less than 2 outs, move the ball. You can't be striking out in those situations. LSU has not struck out an abhorrent amount this year by any stretch of the imagination. But Arkansas is a team that's absolutely going to test that for LSU. So that's going to be huge. Mature at bats in big situations, situational hitting. It's never been more key in a series this year for LSU than it will be this weekend against this Arkansas staff. So we talked about Smith, Molina, and Tigert. Let's look at the bullpen, and it starts with Will McIntyre, a guy you should be very familiar with. He spent time in Arkansas's rotation in the past, 11 appearances. That leads this team, an ERA of 1.5. It's not an overpowering fastball. It's really more of a sinker. He induces a lot of weak contact, does Will McIntyre. Fastball is going to, or the sinker, whatever you want to call it, 88 to 90, somewhere in there. But he has a pretty nasty breaking ball that's very sharp, has a lot of tilt, a lot of depth, downward motion to it. And it can really put you in a hurting. And they've used him in a variety of different ways. He's backed up Hagen Smith an awful lot this year, his first out of the bullpen, Game 1. They've also used him at the back end to close out a ball game or two as well. You can see 2 saves on the season. So a guy that can go long relief, short relief. He can play a lot of different roles and has plenty good stuff. He started against LSU in the first game of that doubleheader last season in Baton Rouge, and the Tigers were able to get to him pretty good. Command is going to be a big thing for him, too, obviously, with that stuff, and it's been really good so far this season. So that's Will McIntyre. Gabe Gackle, he's their closer, and he's been awesome so far this year. 9 appearances, ERA is a little elevated, but 5 saves. The fastball can get up to 97, 98. It's a really big arm. The interesting thing with him, Gackle. I mean, the interesting thing with Gackle is usage. And I say that, hold on, I'm trying to pull something up here, and it's just not cooperating, like, at all. Last week against Auburn, he was used twice in the weekend, and it wasn't great for him. And I bring it up because it was the first time this season he was used twice in a weekend. So he came in, closed out the 1-0 win over the Auburn Tigers in game number 1, was awesome. Again, fastball was up to 97, whatever it was. And they pitched him again in game number 3. He did not record an out, gave up a hit, walked 2, and gave up 3 earned runs. So file that away. Very talented arm. Not really someone you want to see at the back end of the bullpen if you're the opposition because he's been so nails. But they've used him twice out of the pen in a weekend, once this year. It was last weekend. And the second time out wasn't great. So just file that away. But he's a massive threat and a massive weapon for Arkansas. Cody Frank, 10 appearances. Second on the team is Frank. ERA just north of 3. He's been really, really good so far overall in the season. It's not overpowering stuff. It moves an awful lot, though. Again, fastball, high 80s, low 90s, but a lot of wiggle on it and a pretty nasty slider from the right side. Really almost like a slurve from the right side for Cody Frank. He's been a very big trusted arm for them, as has Gage Wood. 8 appearances. Saw him last year. Mid-90s fastball for Wood and fastball slider for him. And then Stone Hewlett is their matchup lefty. 9 appearances, but only 5 in a third inning. So matchup, nothing stays straight. A lot of movement, kind of a herky-jerky motion too. And then the other lefty they'll use is Colin Fisher. Big lefty, not overpowering stuff though, but ERA of 2.5. He's been very successful early in his time at Arkansas. The wild card this weekend out of the bullpen could be Ben Bybee. Was held out with an injury, made his return against Little Rock in the midweek. Started that game. Threw 50 pitches, fastball is up to 94. We'll see how they want to bring him along, but after the game he was hopeful to make his SEC season debut this weekend against LSU. So just file that away. The stuff was really good, obviously, in his first start of the season, but 50 pitches. Dave Van Horn after the game said they didn't want him to throw much more than that. So, are they willing to turn him around that quickly here on a short week against LSU? But he's definitely a guy I would watch as a potential kind of wild card out of Arkansas's bullpen. So it's a really good staff. Really good staff. I will say this. They rely on a core there out of the pen that we just really went through. Specifically, McIntyre, Frank, Gackle, and Wood. Specifically those 4 guys. And while Arkansas's bullpen has been very good, they have not been infallible. They had a 4-run lead that they gave up all in 1 inning to Auburn in game number 3, and the Auburn Tigers never looked back. So there is opportunity there potentially in that pen, but again, the odds are not in your favor there. They're really good. For LSU, you're just going to have to take advantage of every opportunity that you have. You cannot let too many scoring chances go by the wayside if you're LSU, because runs are going to be hard to come by against this Arkansas staff. Let's move to the offensive side of it real quick. And again, 279 average is 13th in the conference. It's not a lineup that's going to strike a whole bunch of fear in you. But there's one guy in particular that I really want to highlight as an example of numbers aren't always what they seem. And that is Sacramento State transfer. Hold on. Let me make sure I get this name right here. Viva Aloy. Plays shortstop for the Hogs. You look at his numbers on the year, 273, 5 homers. It's tied for the team lead. 24 RBI. You might say, it's not that great. Let's dig deeper. In his last 10 games, Eloy is hitting .342 with 3 home runs and 12 RBI. He's on fire. He's probably going to hit in the 2-hole for them. That's going to be somebody you have to majorly circle in this lineup right now. Last 10 games, .342, 3 homers, 12 RBI. Y'all, that's half his damn RBI total on the year has come in the last 10 games. Yeah, that's a big bat that I don't want to beat me right now going into this series. Peyton Holt is their leading hitter. .327. Probably going to hit leadoff. Jared Spraglott has been arguably their best and most consistent hitter this year at .323. Peyton Stovall is back in this lineup and has been awesome since coming back from injury, and that's a name everybody should be familiar with. And then you have a veteran like Kendall Diggs who's going to hit right there in the middle or, in the 3-hole of the lineup, right over 300, tied for the team lead with 5 home runs and second in RBI. There are names that you're familiar with in this lineup, like Peyton Holt, like Peyton Stovall, like Kendall Diggs. There's plenty of potential, plenty of talent. It just hasn't necessarily come together for Arkansas so far this season, but they still average over 7 runs per game. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is the lineup that you faced last week with Florida, because it's not. But there are capable guys here, specifically Eloy, who's just on an absolute tear. And then veterans like Stovall and Diggs. LSU's pitching should, if they execute, should have success against this Arkansas lineup. But don't say we didn't warn you by just brushing aside that they stink, because they don't totally stink on that side of the ball. They're just not to the level that we've seen other Arkansas teams be, much like LSU. Much like LSU. So I'm obviously expecting low-scoring ball games. I like both teams' pitching staffs. Whoever can take advantage of mistakes the best gets it done this weekend. Obviously, like Arkansas behind Hagen Smith, and I like Arkansas after that to find a way to get one of the next 2. I think LSU loses the series 2 out of 3, but I think LSU does manage to get 1. And as we said off the top of the show, that's what you need. That's your goal here. Win 1 game. Come out of this 3-6. When you're trying to stay afloat right now in the early part of this SEC season and then make your hay in the back half when the schedule lightens up, quote unquote, lightens up, you can't get swept. You just have to stay afloat. You win 1 game this weekend against Arkansas. You come home the next week against Vanderbilt, who just got swept at South Carolina. So Vanderbilt's very good. They're not infallible. At home, you should be able to take that series. Then you head to Tennessee, and you're going to try to do that same goal, man. Win 1, and maybe you can steal that series. That's a Vanderbilt team, a Tennessee team that lost the series on the road at Alabama, and Alabama just got swept by Georgia, who was winless in the conference heading into week 2. It's a tough league, and you had a really tough stretch to open it up. But one of the key things here is getting 1 against Arkansas, and I think you can do that, and I really like Friday potentially to be that spot behind Luke Holman. Maybe you do go steal it. It's baseball. Anything can happen. But the odds are not in your favor. This is a very good Arkansas team. They understand the style of baseball that they have to play right now much better. Let me put it this way. Arkansas understands and has executed the style of baseball they have to play to have success, where LSU isn't quite to that level yet. And that's ultimately why I like Arkansas to win this series. But I do think LSU can absolutely get 1 game. And it goes back to everything that we've talked about throughout. Take advantage of any opportunity that you have, mature at bats, a competitiveness that you need in this series. And see if you can't take advantage of some of the struggles that the game 2 and 3 Arkansas starters have had this weekend and sneak a game out and maybe steal the series. But again, official series prediction for me is Arkansas 2 out of 3 on the weekend. You know we're going to have you covered wall to wall here on Musso at the Box throughout this series. Live stream reactions after games, full weekend recap, all of that. So you tuning in, smashing the like button, greatly appreciated. Subscribing up, greatly appreciated as well, both on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. Glad to have y'all with me. Love our chats, and we'll be back next time on Musso at the Box.